What's up, everyone? All right, so in today's episode, I'm going to break down my trades from the morning. And I have to say, first of all, after I recorded yesterday's recap, we had a stock that went up over 1,000%. Unbelievable. So we have to begin by talking about that really big move and acknowledge the fact that the markets right now, it just feels like there's an on-off switch somewhere. And when it's off, there's nothing. It's crickets, potentially even no trade days. And then when it's on, 500, 700, 1,000% gainers. So what does that tell us about the market? Well, I think for one, it tells us that traders are here, but there are just certain days where we're not seeing momentum. And so I think by default, they end up just trading other stocks. Maybe it's large caps, maybe it's penny stocks, maybe it's crypto, but small caps are either hot and we have a small cap that's making a big move, or they're not. And those traders just sort of disappear. I really don't know exactly where they go. If you know, certainly tell us in the comments. But what I'm seeing is that we're in sort of a hot, cold market. Last week was very cold. And then this week, Monday, $65,000 green day. Yesterday, I was up 50 grand. Unfortunately, gave back 30 of it on rain. And then we had LFS pop up. Today, another green day. So now all of a sudden, I'm in the driver's seat for the month of November, and I wasn't expecting that at the end of last week. Now, for those of you guys tuning in, perhaps for the first time, or even for those who are regular viewers here on YouTube, if you have not already downloaded a copy of How to Day Trade the Plain Truth, I'm going to put a link where you can download a free copy in the description of this episode. Now, you can always buy a copy on Amazon if you'd like, and I'm happy for you to do that. But I have a free copy that you guys can download if you'd like to do that. And there's also the audiobook. Anyways, if you want to learn a little bit more about my strategy and the way I approach trading, this is a great book to check out. So let's go ahead and jump on the screen share and start high level with a review of LFS from yesterday. Okay, so LFS yesterday, what was the deal with this stock? It went from $2 a share to nearly 20 bucks. That's unbelievable, especially considering I had a 26 million share float and no news. Okay, this is when it gets kind of crazy. There was no news, none. Looking at the daily chart down here in this window, this was a blue sky setup. So its all-time high was about $6 a share, sold off, and when it broke through that level, there was really no upside resistance because it was at the highest price it had ever been at. That's bullish. And so finally we get that big squeeze. Now, there's a couple of different daily setups that I really like trading. One of them is a blue sky setup. One of them is day one of an IPO, if it's a really hyped up IPO, like Airbnb or something like that. Circle IPO this year was a great one. I think I made about $36,000 on that one. That was really solid. So blue sky setup, IPOs, recent reverse splits. Recent reverse splits can be really powerful because when the company does reverse splits, the float goes down. So float goes down, then they typically put out good news, and we get that big squeeze. So those three setups are daily patterns or daily conditions that I really look for because they can give us these big moves, and that's exactly what happened with LFS. So essentially, this is a stock that I would characterize as being a grinder. It just kept grinding higher, as you could see right here. Oops, wrong button. So it just kept grinding higher, as you could see right here, squeezing up. And then finally, you got a few candles where it would pull away and halt, open and dips down. Then rallies back up, then dips down. Rallies back up and dips down. Rallies back up, dips down. And so I think it would be probably safe to say that the dip trading strategy would have worked very nicely on this stock because you had so many really nice dips and they just kept getting bought up and then they kept going higher. So I love seeing that. And then what's also very interesting is after hours, it pushed even higher still. One of the things that I find fascinating is how at 4 p.m. you have all of this trading, high volume, high volume, high volume, and then at 4 p.m. it's like crickets. Look at the S&P 500 just for instance. So the S&P 500, let's back this up here. So it's like all this volume, and then boop, 4 p.m. it's like the switch quite literally turns off. Several of the switches power down for after hours, and they stay off during pre-market, and then as soon as the bell rings, the volume comes back up. So one of the reasons I actually like trading pre-market is because that's when companies put out breaking news. But they put out breaking news, and because most traders wait till the 9:30 opening bell, if you're one of the people that see the breaking news early enough, you can jump on it and you can do really well because the stock's not yet crowded. They become more crowded later in the day as there's more people that are seeing it and are trying to fight over, getting a little piece of the profit. So I'm a big fan of trading breaking news, obviously, and it comes out pre-market. But it's very interesting when you have that continuation into after hours, and we definitely got that on LFS. So after hours, even though the volume declined, it kept squeezing higher, and the dips kept getting bought up, which is great to see. Now, for those of you guys that haven't already checked out my classes, over in Chapter 8 of Strategies and Scaling, we have dip trading, the dip buy. So dip trading is a 3-hour, 17-minute long chapter inside this entire curriculum, which is my Warrior Pro curriculum. So I just throw that out there for those of you guys that haven't seen it already. We will be having our Black Friday sales going on this year, of course. We've actually already started them. So if you haven't already checked them out, you're welcome to come over to the website and check them out. And, this is for traders who have probably been watching on YouTube and are at a place where they're like, all right, I want to get into the curriculum. I want to go through every chapter and I want to absorb everything that Ross knows about trading and in an organized way. And that's what you get when you go through the classes. Plus, of course, you can tune into my broadcast every single day and you get access to the software right here. So LFS, really strong move. I wondered if it was going to continue into day 2, but it didn't. It just sort of pulled back. But since there was no news, float's a little higher, probably shorts repositioned after hours, and then 4 a.m. they started shorting it, and now they're kind of working against these levels from yesterday. So that was LFS. So when I sat down initially, I was like, okay, is LFS going to be something that we're going to be considering? But in fact, it wasn't gapping up because it closed at like 12, and then pre-market was down here at 10. It was actually gapping down. This would have been the rare instance where I make money on stocks that gap down. That's not super common. I don't usually trade stocks that are gapping down. But if we look at my metrics, and I'll pull them up for you real quick here, you can see that when I look at my gains based on whether the stock was moving up or down, let's see, we're going to do detailed, we're going to do instrument. You'll see that I actually do have some profit on stocks that are gapping down. So it is unusual. It's not typically what I'm trading, but this is it right here. Performance by instrument movement. So less than, or it must be overall. So so when we have that gap down and then the curl back up. So I do better at the extremes, and mostly, of course, when they're gapping higher, but nonetheless, I do still get some trades there when they're gapping down sometimes. So that was LFS. No trades on it though for me today. So when I first sat down, 7 a.m., I was looking at the scans and I saw that we had SLRX. Now this is a cheaper stock. I was like, 4 a.m. pop. It's been selling off since then. Don't really like that so much. I was looking back on the scanners here. Let's see. So that was SLRX. And then we had VCIG. This one, it just sort of has a history of popping and dropping. And then here, 7 a.m., CMCT pops up. Now, this went straight from $5 to $10 a share, basically. However, it's a REIT, a real estate investment trust. REITs, WHLR is also a REIT, has done a lot of reverse splits, has a very low float because they've had to do reverse splits to keep themselves in compliance with the minimum quote of $1 a share to stay on NASDAQ. So unfortunately, I look at CMCT and, these companies, they just don't usually trade super well. Obviously, their assets are, huge investments in real estate, makes sense. But then, typically these companies also carry a lot of liabilities. They carry a lot of debt, which is related to purchasing all of this real estate. So I'm sort of, I just don't usually expect a REIT to do super well. But this one did pop up. And when it first popped up, I was like, all right, clearly showing some momentum. But I didn't trade it right away. I was like, I'm going to wait a few minutes. I'm going to give this a chance, just sort of consolidate and, see how well it can even hold up. So let's see. So my first trade on this is the area that I suppose kind of right in here that's interesting. So my first trade, let me back this up just a little bit. I can see my GPU is like stressed out a bit right now. All right, so it's all these 4K monitors. All right, so we get that initial spike right there. It dips down, pops up. I don't trade it there. Pulls back, pops up, pulls back, pops up, pulls back, pops up, pulls back. And then right in here where I took my first trade was actually right here. So when we broke over that pivot there, I thought we were going straight to the highs. So what ended up happening, however, is I got in right here at about 940. I was looking for the break through this pivot, and it goes up to 1040, which is $1 a share. Okay, so that's not too bad, but it immediately drops right back down. So I ended up making money on that trade. Here's my P&L for the day. It's $9,817.91. So I made $14,000 on that first pop right there. It dips down, it comes back up, and I added back right here as it broke over this pivot. And I was like, here we go. We're looking for that squeeze through the high. And then I gave back $4,000 off the top. And then it comes back up again, double tops, and it drops it again. And this was just very interesting. This stock was just not able to pull away. Now, not shocking since it's a REIT, but I was still a bit surprised just because it had made such a big move already. And it just seemed like it kind of made sense. But I think there were traders on the other side of it, trading to the short side, that just probably looked at this and they were like, it's a REIT. It's not going that much higher. And even if it goes a little higher, that I can keep adding. So sector was the problem there. The catalyst wasn't strong enough to overcome that. And so that was CMCT. Traded it. It popped up at 7, traded at 7:30, and then was watching it here all the way to the open and was looking to see, would we curl back through 11? Could we do it? But we couldn't. So then, I was sitting here all morning watching scans. We had some other things that popped up, but nothing that really made sense. So we had CMCT, we had BGLC. This one popped up, Malaysian company, materials, chemicals. I was like, nah, I don't know about that. Pops up to 7, ends up going red on the day, down 7% right now. All right, so that's no good. CNTA floats too high. That's no good. GANX, this one getting closer to the open, just popping and dropping. There was just not a lot of staying power. So today was a day where it felt a little colder relative to yesterday and the day before, but even still, I was able to pull out almost $10,000 from the market. So now the running total on the week, $65,000 from Monday, $20,000 from yesterday, so $85,000, now at just under $95,000 on the week. Not bad. So Thursday and Friday, can I make another $5,000, get myself up over $100,000 on the week? That would set me up really nicely going into next week. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, showing up every single day. If it's hot, trading aggressively. If we've got momentum, stepping up to the plate. If I can build a cushion, I'm willing to take some risk. And if I can't, then I just sit on my hands and I wait. And today I got a couple trades and then it cooled off. And so, I gave back a little profit off the top, but I'm grateful to be green and I'll live to trade another day. So again, for those of you guys that want to learn a little bit more about my strategy, check out How to Day Trade, The Plain Truth. This is, of course, on Amazon. It's also, you can download the audiobook, but I have a link in the description where you could download the ebook. So you could check that out if you'd like. And I'll actually put a link to the audiobook. I'll put the link to the audiobook as well so you guys could check that out if you want. All right, so that's it for me. I'll see you guys back at it first thing tomorrow morning. And let me remind you, as always, trading is risky and my results aren't typical. So please manage your risk and always practice this simulator before putting real money on the line. And if you haven't checked out my newest upload on level 2 or on stock selection, I'll have links to them right here. Okay, see you guys back at it, 7 a.m., bright and early tomorrow morning.